Panharmonicon presents a podcast.
Am I the baddest?
Sure enough.
Am I the meanest?
Sure enough.
Am I the prettiest?
Low down. Like, you gonna go say the rest of it?
There's more. Okay, let me. That's what I was looking. That's what I was trying to Google, and I can't. Hold on. What were you saying? Mow down, showdown.
Am I the prettiest mofo low down around this town?
Am I the prettiest? Am I the prettiest mofo low down around this town? Am I the prettiest mofo low down around this town?
Sure enough.
Okay. Am I the baddest?
Sure enough.
Am I the meanest?
Sure enough.
Am I the prettiest mofo low down around this town?
Sure enough.
I can't hear you.
Sure enough.
I can't hear you.
Sure enough.
And one more question for the people out there. Is this not Panharmonicon Studios presents
a podcast?
Show enough.
The podcast, the Harlem.
Oh.
Except we ain't in Harlem.
No,
But,
no, we're pretty far away from that.
Yeah, I wouldn't say pretty far away from it.
Far
That makes it
enough.
sound like we on the opposite side of like like the coast.
No.
Like that. So if you understood what we said at the beginning, that and you didn't read the title somehow, that's right. We are doing. I would call it a classic. I don't know who all would call it a classic. I would call it a classic. It is The Last Dragon.
The Last Dragon.
You are the last dragon. You get served the power of the globe. It was released back in March 1985. Had itself a budget of just $10 million.
Ooh.
Which is probably a decent amount back then. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah.
Only did 30 million box
Well,
office, which isn't bad. I
yeah.
mean, that's you made money plus some.
Right.
So,
all things considered.
Congrats to them. It was from a screenplay by a guy by the name of Louis Venosta, and it was picked up by essentially it was picked up by Berry Gordy. I don't know if you know who Berry Gordy is. He was the CEO of Motown Records.
There we go.
In the late 70s, throughout the 80s, Motown had moved itself into like a mixture of things, and one of the things it was really trying to get into was movies. Now, granted, it's not like Motown itself put this out, but Berry Gordy was the executive producer, and a guy by the name of Rupert Hitze was the main producer.
Okay.
And as I was telling him before, it is on the list of movies you need to see if you are a black person. Do not at me. I'm pretty sure most of you black people not at me, and you'd be like, "Yep, you're right."
And
right on
also, if you weren't aware, because we don't have video yet, we are black. I know that especially my voice. I mean, Dame's definitely got more of a Barry White kind of. He's got that low, chill voice. I know for a fact. Everyone tells me. So just in case we say something, you guys like, you can't say that. We're black. You know what I'm saying. You know what I'm talking about. You know which word specifically. Because we are in Last Dragon. I mean, it comes up a couple times. Well, actually, does it? Or maybe it was just a thought that I had in response to an event that I saw that I was like, nigga.
No, it's only said once in the movie.
Okay.
And then it's like, it's funny because it's also kind of said pretty quietly to the point that you'd almost think that it wasn't even said, but it was said. It's a pretty, and I guess you would call that a pretty, like, for that movie, iconic scene of the Leroy Green catches bullets with his teeth. Nigga, please.
Yeah. Yes. This is, so admittedly, full transparency, I disappointed my boy here. Because the truth is I had not seen this movie up until recently when he proposed it as an idea. And of course I was at least familiar with it. I knew that it exists, but I had never seen it. I know one of my older brothers, he would actually quote it a couple times, and I felt so bad because he would start to do the show enough thing, and I'd be like, what are you talking about? But now I know, and I will try to remember that. I appreciate you helping me here in the beginning because it was still kind of hard to get out. But yeah, Last Dragon, it is such an interesting flick. And I would say even seeing it now, 40 years later, for the first time, I can 100% see how this film became a classic. A cult classic.
40 years. Why'd you have
40
to say
years.
that out loud?
Or, well, I mean, we're here, we're doing it. Yeah, I have quite a bit of notes here. Like we had talked about last time, I think I definitely got into this habit of writing notes as I go. But sometimes things may get a little jumbled, but just understand that this is one of those movies where it's just kind of to be expected. There's so many things to tackle about this film. I mean, it is in essence like the spirit of the 80s.
Yes, it pretty much is.
Yeah.
It's it's smack dab in the middle of the 80s. It's, I don't know, I have a theory on like decades and how like culture moves throughout a decade. And I would say that because it's in 1985, it is like quintessential 80s. Because the early years of a decade tend to still have like the feeling of its previous decade.
Right.
And then it gets its identity and it moves into like the next decade.
Right.
And in 1985, you were pristine, neon, hip hop fused with dance, fused with a little bit of electric. You got people just break dancing out in the streets.
Yeah.
You got the renaissance of kung fu coming back. You got dudes in crop tops. You got
and football shoulder pads.
Yeah, football shoulder
which
pads.
Was apparently like the quintessential marker for a villain in 1985. If that person's wearing football shoulder pads and you know they don't play, probably going to kill you.
They don't play.
They don't.
Yeah.
They don't. Like he was wild. So for those of you who haven't seen the movie, just in a nutshell, so The Last Dragon, it follows our lead character Leroy. I believe it's actually Leroy Green Jr.
Yes.
Right? Leroy Green Jr., who it's never specified why or how, but for a guy living and seemingly born in the middle of like Harlem, he's pretty Asian. Like, and I mean, he seems almost kind of like Bruce Lee reincarnated in a way. And the movie opens up with this pretty funny montage that almost kind of flows like a music video of Leroy Green training, and it just follows him as he just goes through his life as a martial arts. He wouldn't call himself a master, but as a practitioner of the martial arts. And that's essentially it. That really is the plot. It's kind of interesting. Some of don't get me wrong, there are other threads that are woven into it, but I mean, like the overarching sort of thing, there's no like, I guess he is looking for the master. He is looking for that achievement, what seems like the sort of penultimate move for him to be fulfilled in his martial arts knowledge, but he learns by the end of the film where he should find that. Now, I give sort of a vague synopsis there because it's hard to tell, like, okay, what is the direction of it at times? Like, I understand that it's trying to move in this kind of be like what you mentioned earlier as what is like pay homage to like black exploitation films, yellow exploitation films, especially like martial arts films that have become very popular around that time in like the preceding decades. But I had some questions. Now, they're not necessarily questions that maybe needed to be answered. I think that's kind of like the spirit of movies made around that time, in that they didn't necessarily feel the need to explain themselves a lot. They just kind of were what they were. And I actually wrote a note because it made me think about just in the context of superhero films, especially since we have a few coming up here, like at what point did we officially decide that the origin story and starting from the beginning and explaining that was the way to go? And did it have any influence with people asking certain questions? Because watching Last Dragon, I did have that question of, okay, so how did he get here? Especially juxtapose Leroy Green Jr. juxtaposed against the rest of his family. Mm-hmm. No one else is like him. And so he's this like crazy outlier. And I was just like so intrigued to figure out, okay, like how did he develop this affinity for the martial arts and his love for Bruce Lee and all this? But it never goes into that, which is fine. Like I guess ultimately I don't need an answer. I'm just saying that it was a question that came up that I'm like, where did this start?
Well, if I had to try to answer it, because you're right, it's not answered itself in there. I would say that Leroy probably grew up enjoying Bruce Lee films, since he seems to be able to like he knows them seemingly very much like by memory.
Yeah.
Right. So
sure.
I would say he grew up with them and decided to start learning martial arts, and more than likely he's what you would probably call like an anime or something like that, like a just like a once in a lifetime, like a natural born genius in martial arts. They never say the martial art, and that's like oddly, everyone is either a master or something, but nobody says what they are proficient at in this movie. Everyone just is good at.
Like they don't ever specify a form of martial arts. They don't say like Tai Chi,
everybody's just good at like
or
punching and kicking. No one says specifically like I know like chess boxing, or I know wushu, I know karate. No one says these things. It's just you are the master.
Yeah,
I'm the master. Like what? Show enough. What are you the master?
Yeah,
of? It's more than likely like he's naturally good at it. So he just got better and better as he grew older, which is why the beginning of the movie is him doing his little like routine with his teacher, his sensei, shooting arrows at him, and him knowing which ones to break and which one he needed to grab. And from that point is his sensei saying, I don't really have anything else to teach you. I'm going to send you on your way, and basically begin the movie.
Mm-hmm. Which is it's a story thread. It's one of the main story threads of the movie, right? Where he's looking for that next level. It almost kind of seemed, it was kind of odd because his master is trying to tell him like, you've learned everything that you can learn, but he himself doesn't even want to accept that that's even a possibility. He's like, no, there's got to be more. And then seemingly his master sends him on this quest, which, spoiler alert, turns out is really just kind of a ruse for him to essentially kind of step into his own and realize that he has reached the pinnacle. Because if I'm gonna be honest, if it were me and I am practicing on speed bags and punching bags and the giant like wooden stick arm sticky man, I wish I knew the thing of that thing, but and he's blocking arrows, dude, without seemingly like he's just going purely based off of the sound of him releasing it, and then he catches it. I'm not asking anybody where's the next level. I caught an arrow, dude.
You did.
That's enough.
But he is like his master told him, like I guess early on, that he would know when he reached the final level because he would have the glow. He would get the golden aura. And because he didn't see that, he himself said, "I'm not at where I'm supposed to be."
Yeah,
because obviously he wanted to reach that level. So I can understand him being like, there has to be more. Because you would think that, like, if I told you that if you kept training in the way you weight train, that at its peak you would be able to fly, and then you bench pressed like 1,500 pounds, and then you'd be like, but I can't fly. I'd be like, well, I can't get you any stronger. You're gonna have to learn to fly on your own. Like, well, I guess I gotta figure that part out, because you told me when I'm at my peak, I can fly. So that to Leroy, that was his thing. Like, I gotta be able to, like, the final level is the glow. That's when I'm the true master. And I would probably say, even though he did have great respect for his Sifu, he probably did think to some degree, like, well, you also don't have glue, but I treat you as my master.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it's just you need to teach me more to get me to where we both see me being.
Yeah. It's a possibility. I just, like, it's, I guess if I were in that situation, I probably would have just assumed that he was just sort of exaggerating. I'm like, there's no way I'm going to fly. There's no way I'm going to start to glow gold. But as we come to find out, that very much, it does actually happen. So another story thread here in the movie, and after you were saying that, it now makes me wonder if that has anything to do with his journey to reaching that level. So I believe that is maybe the character played by Vanity. Is that her name?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Vanity.
Yeah. So there is, what is the name of Vanity? Who does she play in the movie? Is it just Vanity?
No, she's not Vanity in the movie. She's Laura Linda.
Laura. Okay.
I think it's Laura. I know Laura is the first name. Can't remember if it's Laura Linda or if it was something else like that.
So Laura, she almost is like, I don't want to say a disc jockey, but she kind of has a show which to me is somewhat reminiscent of, if you're familiar with Soul Train mixed with some slight talk show vibes, a little Arsenio Hall, but I guess maybe Arsenio Hall came out after. Either way, it has this kind of interesting feel to it. It feels very kind of MTV like also, and there's like a bunch of people dancing, and she's one of the singers, and I think DeBarge appears and he's singing.
They were showing a video of his.
Oh, so he wasn't actually there.
No.
That was just a video. Yeah. Oh, yeah, because those screens are pretty next level. They were basically, those screens were the size of walls. And so she basically runs this show, and it seems like she's, I don't necessarily say like a gatekeeper, but she kind of has the power to play new music and to put the spotlight on like up and coming artists. And it's not to say that she does this in a way where she's trying to keep people out, but you know, she has good taste, and that shows through how popular her show is and all the fans that she has. But there is a producer, goofy as villain producer, by the last name of, is it Arcadian?
Mm-hmm.
Is that his name? Who to me just looks like a bite-sized John Lithgow.
Yeah, I can see that.
He is a
because of the hair.
The hair in the shape of his face too. Like if you turn your head like 45 degrees off center when you're watching it and just look out the corner of your eye, for a second you might be like, that's John Lithgow, but I think this dude's like 5'1", so that's why bite-sized John Lithgow.
Oh, it's that short. But
Maybe he was just surrounded by very tall people, because I think one of his henchmen, I don't know, maybe he was just 6'5", but that dude, he was also shorter than the girl he was trying to push to actually get on that show. And so basically with this story thread, this producer is trying to get this music from his lady onto this show so that she can kind of like catapult her into stardom. And he's a very nefarious guy. You can tell by the way that they film it, he's just up to no good. And before I forget, something that really bothered me about this movie, there's this scene when they're first introduced to Arcadian and the giant guy. I think his goes by Rock. Mm-hmm. He takes out a giant pig leg from this freezer that's full of just butchered meat, like pig's meat, cow's meat, and then he puts it into this tank. And seemingly there's something in it that is vicious, and it latches onto this thing, and this guy is huge. And he's struggling to keep this in his hand. And I kept thinking to myself, okay, like, you know, this is that moment where you're introducing the gun in Act 1 and it's got to go off in Act 3. It never comes back.
There's no Chekhov's creature here.
You
do not ever get a payoff of what that thing is.
But I just knew, dude. I was like, okay, the final battle is going to take place here. Eddie's going to get pushed into it, and that's how he's going to die. He's going to eat him. Then there's going to be nothing but a skeleton in there. Nope.
He's teased twice, then pretty much never again.
Yeah, and the second time that he's teased, there's this scene where Leroy actually sort of infiltrates this headquarters, and after taking care of some henchmen, he grabs Eddie's head and then he dunks it into that same tank that previously had this large creature in. And Eddie is terrified, right? Because he's probably thinking to himself, this thing's going to eat my face. But then he pulls his head out and he's fine. And you never...
He had like a little cut around over his like...
Did he?
In between his eyes.
Ah, well.
But that was it.
Poor Eddie.
Nothing like... Yeah, I don't know what that was about.
Right? Why would you do that?
There are decisions in the movie that, to me, that being one of them, where it's just like, it's the 80s. And it's just, it's a movie in the 80s that isn't taking itself serious at all.
Yeah.
I mean, his name is Eddie Arcadian. And the Arcadian part is arcade. I don't know if you caught that. Like, he calls himself the king of video games because he owns, like, arcades.
Oh. No, I didn't realize that. I mean, I remember him saying that in the movie, that he's the king of video games, and I was like, what? I've not seen you play a single video game this entire movie. Like, well, how are you the king of it?
He's not like the king of Kong. He just owns arcades.
Gotcha. Yeah, man. That's one of the things what I mean as a reference before. It's like the spirit of the 80s in this movie, where it doesn't seem like you have to explain anything. You can just do whatever you want, and people are just okay with it. Like, I have never once in my life gone anywhere, and maybe this is just because I've never been in New York, but I can't imagine that in the 80s it was just a popular style to walk around wearing football shoulder pads. The first 5 times that you see Sho'nuff, he's wearing different color football shoulder pads, dude. I'm like, and nothing else. He's got pants on, but
I was about to say, like, he has clothes on,
but like nothing else up top. You know what I'm saying?
He's wearing a karate gi.
No, there was one scene where there
was one scene where he just had the shoulder pads.
He just had the shoulder pads.
But for the most part, he was like usually like in like his like red like karate gi that was like molded with the shoulder pads.
I am curious though, man. Do you think that it's a possibility that somebody could actually pull that off? Do you think that that's a style that could find itself injected into modern day? No.
Like, there were things we brought back from the 80s recently, but that's the true clothing style I don't see making like a full comeback.
I think it needs to. I need to see more people. I need to see people walk around like that. And that's one of the reasons why I reference also Double Dragon. It's because the style of it. It's very
interesting that you said that, because to me, this movie was much more reminiscent of, and it may have also something to do with who's in the movie, but it was more reminiscent of TMNT 2. The Secret of the Ooze.
Yeah, but wouldn't TMNT 2 have been inspired then by?
I'm just saying, like, in theory, Double Dragon would have also been inspired by, but
well, when did the Double Dragon video game come out?
Like 87 or 88 or something.
Oh,
like
really? Damn, they turned that into a movie pretty quick.
What, 94?
Something like that. But yeah. Either way.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, to me, it just had that, like, because I mean, yeah, Double Dragon was also a pretty, like, badly cartoony movie. But I feel like its emphasis on the martial arts aspect, I don't know, for some reason, even just kind of the way it was filmed, it felt like I wouldn't be surprised if, I know Golden Harvest did the TMNT movies, but it's like I almost wouldn't be surprised if they shared like staff or something like that. It's just the movie felt like it could have belonged, like it was like TMNT 0 before the Turtles existed.
Yeah, absolutely. Because now it makes me wonder, like, if you keep going back, because I feel like it was easy for me to see this and think to myself, you know, because I feel like movies that are created between, especially like mid 80s or early 90s to a degree, can kind of have a similar aesthetic. So it's kind of hard for me to gauge, okay, like, when exactly did you come out? And so at first I'm thinking, oh, this movie looks like it's inspired, because I was also thinking like TMNT. And then when I looked it up, and I'm like, no, it predates TMNT. I guess, like you said, it predates Double Dragon. So I'm like, is there anything that comes before The Last Dragon that somebody could look at? And if you just keep going further back and say, you know, where did that start? Where did the inspiration, the style, all of it?
I would say its style is just of its own,
Mm-hmm.
and really just of the era.
Fever dream, man.
Yeah, but in terms of like what the movie is, in a lot of ways, I think it is reminiscent of a movie that itself plays in the movie, which is Chinese Connection, like Fist of Fury. Because if you think about it, you have this character of Leroy Green, aka Bruce Leroy. Everything that he deals with in terms of his martial arts and like looking for things like that all fall into the Chinese side of martial arts. But then you have Shonuff, who's the Shogun of Harlem, aka a Japanese influenced individual who, to some degree, it looks like he tries to use like a mixture of karate and aikido and judo, all Japanese martial arts, and is like the first time you see him, he bursts into the movie theater,
Mm-hmm.
and he's got his group and he's trying to take over everything, and it's very reminiscent of Chinese Connection, but a lot of the other martial arts movies of like that era of Bruce Lee's time, where it would be about like Japanese occupation of like China and how this like lone martial artist like fights them off. And I don't know if they even knew they were doing that when they made the movie, but to me, Chinese Connection seems like it's a very strong influence on the movie itself.
Yeah, I mean, there's even a scene towards the end of the movie, I believe, where that's actually something that sort of sets Leroy off and to giving him a plan to how he's gonna, you know, finally take care of this last little bit of mess that Eddie Arcadian has got them into.
Mm-hmm.
So it's super interesting, and it's super interesting just to see just how unhinged so much of it was. And sometimes I just got this feeling that when the camera started rolling, they just said, do stuff, and people just started pop locking. Like, I would be so pissed if I went to a movie and somebody just threw a boombox into the aisle, turned it on, and just started pop locking. Like,
I would have been fighting in that movie theater too. Like, first off, I'm trying to watch Enter the Dragon.
Yes.
None of you will shut up.
Dude, it was like a daycare in there.
Like, I was like, okay, if you all seen this before, get out of here. I'm trying to watch this movie. Y'all won't shut up. For some reason, two of you just dropped a boombox in the middle of the aisle and just started pop locking and dancing.
What is it with 80s movies and dancing? Dude, I couldn't help but think about Mac and Me.
Yeah. I feel like in this case, it's just because of that, like, the Motown, like, Berry Gordy part of it. It's like, put as much music into this movie as possible.
And if you put music into it, you can't put music into it and not have somebody dance.
Yes.
So even if you're in a movie theater,
but somebody better be dancing.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like, I've watched Enter the Dragon a number of times. I don't think I've ever been like, this movie is inspiring me to start pop locking. Get it in real quick. Like,
as if there's no other place that you could do it. Right?
It's like, they could have gone out into
just go outside, man.
The atrium outside.
Go to your local YMCA.
Going somewhere. But they were like, we got to start pop locking right now.
In the middle of the movie.
I would have been that dude who jumped on it too. Now, he decimated that boombox when he jumped on top of it.
Which is another thing I had a note about, because I didn't know that was even possible, dude. I didn't think that a boombox would shatter into so many pieces.
Like, I've been around boomboxes. They some sturdy bad boys.
They are.
He destroyed that thing.
That thing was insane, dude. That thing looks like it was made out of graham crackers. The way that he smashed down on that shit. I was shocked.
And they just let him do it. I thought they was about to start fighting in, and he was like, nah, okay. He jumped on that.
Until Shogun comes up, and until Shonuff comes up and he starts doing his thing. I didn't realize. Okay, so obviously Leroy Green is at the center of all this. Can I just say he's one of the most frustratingly naive protagonists I have ever seen in film?
Yeah, he's
my goodness.
Honestly, if it wasn't for the fact that he does talk as much as he does, he'd be like this close to like the silent protagonist of a video game. Like, cause he is like the sponge to which the world is like putting its information into because he just doesn't have any.
Nothing.
Honest to goodness, with his dedication to martial arts, his obsession for Bruce Lee and Chinese culture in general, and the way he acts, I'm gonna say it right now, Leroy Green is autistic, and back then he was just considered eccentric and weird. Today, you would look at him and say he has a lot of the qualities of somebody who might be on the spectrum.
Yeah,
but he's just very for someone who looks like they're in their 20s, you would think he was 9 years old.
Yeah. Like that's and it's no shade to that. It's just like it's so strange, like trying to watch the rest of the world around him guide him because he is so limited in his scope and like focus on martial arts, so much so that he literally has his 12-year-old brother trying to guide him. His 12-year-old, okay. So you guys don't have to rewind. I'm going to say this again. Leroy's 12-year-old brother guides him and talks about sexual intercourse.
Yeah, he's got to learn the moves.
Say it again. Leroy's 12-year-old brother guides him with advice in sexual intercourse. His 12-year-old brother has
Richie
more.
Looks like he gets around, though.
Richie, honestly, if it wasn't for his height, I would have thought maybe Richie was 36.
Because Richie be out there.
Yes.
He be sneaking in the clubs.
Dude, he is... I think he does think that he's much older. Because even with Laura... He was so committed to this idea that Laura was his that
they
this
were
woman
making
20
out,
years older.
He got
he was
mad.
so pissed.
It was like in his head. He was like I know he kept saying like that's my woman.
Yeah.
Well, it was like he truly actually believed.
Yes.
That was his woman.
And
he got so mad when he saw Leroy making out with her.
And it's just so strange, like the fact that obviously your brother's far closer in age, but apparently that just doesn't matter.
No, that was his woman as far as he's concerned.
But he does show a level of maturity and actually just sort of passion that I think that, which is also kind of frustrating because it's like a level of passion that Leroy just cannot express unless it's about that one thing. Because when Shonuff, in the scene where Shonuff shows up to his father's pizza shop, you actually have Richie standing up, and even though Richie was going to be able to do anything, he actually like put forth some effort, which is commendable. But like any time almost that you see Leroy potentially about to engage with Shonuff, it's like I got to choose this route of being passive, and I can't act, I can't fight unless somebody's gonna. And like obviously this dude is doing terrible things. He's playing his friends. He's put Johnny in a chokehold and was threatening to break his neck, and then literally was going to actually bend down and give in and kiss this dude's shoe, only to get kicked in the face, which had to hurt. I've thrown a few snap kicks, but he's leaning into that Converse. Dude, that had to hurt.
Yeah, but he's the master.
He is the master. But with Richie, it was just so strange, like watching him walk through. And like, you need to do this, man. Listen, I'm gonna tell you how to get in. Like, I'm like, dude, have you done it? Like, you're 12.
Hey, man, I'm telling you.
I feel like you got some inside scoops, dude.
He was just out on them streets. You could tell it.
Yeah, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if he was at that age paying for prostitutes.
I don't think he had to do all that, but
right, because he had the swag.
Because he had the moves, man. He had
That's
the moves.
True.
If he was teaching Bruce Lee, he was teaching him the moves.
Yeah.
So
no, you're right.
And,
all right. I'm bad.
Yes, like Vanity already had a thing for him, but he was able to. He finagled that with the help of the moves. That's all I'm saying.
And it's amazing also to me that it almost kind of seems like he and Vanity maybe wouldn't have become a thing if it weren't for that one shot from that Bruce Lee movie where he was kissing that. Because then,
she was like she wanted it so bad.
Painful. She's the way I mean, like, you're talking about a way that I don't think I've ever seen a woman look at someone like this ever in my life. And the way that she is looking at Leroy, and he just every time Bruce Lee pops up and does a move, he's like, "Wah!" It's like, dude, you have this incredibly beautiful woman right next to you, and it's like you don't even realize she exists until
like I said,
there's that scene, and he's like, "Oh, you mean to tell me I can kiss the girl?"
You don't know why, but you're dying to try. You wanna
Kiss the girl.
Sing with me now. But no.
Sha-la-la-la-la-la. Oh, sorry.
Leroy Green is Goku if Goku only wanted to get stronger but not fight. Like he's just so singularly focused on getting stronger that he doesn't want to do anything else.
Yeah.
Now, having to have Bruce Lee show you that you can kiss a girl to be like, yeah, I got it. Because she kissed him first. And he was like, oh, lady.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
All that.
Yeah.
and then he looked at the screen and Bruce was kissing. He's like, oh, okay, I got you.
That's what that is?
Because he's like Johnny Five. But it's just like, okay, I got it. So he finally starts kissing. And then he leaves and she's like, oh, that was the female version of Blue Balls. You can see it. She was so upset.
And because also it's been happening every time, and this isn't, folks, for those who haven't seen the movie, this is not their first time. This is not them being their first time being that close to each other. I would say at this point in the film, there's maybe been at least like 4,
I think
5
this
times.
Is fourth.
Like it's been a lot. So every time he fumbles the bag, every single time. So to a degree, it does make sense that he would need to have pointers. 12-year-old brother. Well, I mean, that's a whole... He did have Gary Coleman vibes, though. I will say that. His brother was, I would say, maybe a couple steps away from being Gary Coleman. Like, I don't know what it is. Maybe it was the hair and the cheeks, because his cheeks were kind of cherubic. He had some very, like... I wanted to squeeze it. Like, but his face cheeks, guys. His face cheeks, they were just so... They look like when you drink a Capri Sun completely and then you blow it up, the air, but then before you step on it, that's what his cheeks kind of looked like to me. And then it had just like a little chia pet hair growing out on top.
Shouldn't step on him.
You shouldn't when you blow up. Oh, that's disrespectful, isn't it? That's disrespecting the pouch.
Yeah. Didn't you see the commercial when he stepped on it and he blew up instead of the pouch? It's a true story. You don't do that.
I mean, that would be a crazy funeral to attend.
I mean, it's just gonna be a picture because he ain't there no more. There was like nothing left of him. So,
yeah. So I guess back to The Last Dragon. So obviously, there's like 2 villains in this movie essentially. So there's Eddie Arcadian and his whack and nefarious plan. It's so goofy because the entire time I'm watching this film, I'm like, he seems like he's doing a lot for this. For somebody who seems to have like a decent amount of influence and power and henchmen under his belt, he's really pushing getting her on this show. And I'm thinking to myself, like, dude, if you're a producer, then why not like create your own platform for her to like be able to get out on? Like, is there no other avenue? Because he's so focused on...
He wasn't a producer, he was a manager.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he's a manager. But even still, like, he's so obsessed with taking over Laura's place and like, or like getting her, I guess, to support that. It's like he doesn't consider any other options.
Well, that's because his first thing was, let's get her to get, Baby Doll on to like this known television show to get her, make her big. And then when Laura said no, things flipped. So it stopped being about the other girl completely, and it just
but the fact that he was told no.
I got
like
told
somebody,
no.
Yeah,
I'm gonna make you say yes.
Uh-huh.
So much so that she eventually leaves him, and he still is going after Laura. And at this point, he's now also turned his attention to Leroy, because these are now 2 people who have stopped him essentially from like getting what he wanted.
I think it's so interesting because I kind of thought to myself I must have missed the scene, but it was so odd to me that their paths ended up crossing almost just serendipitously. Like there was no plan for that. Because essentially, as you move through to the climax of the film, all three of the paths cross between Leroy, Shonuff, and Eddie. But let me stop myself. Let me take a few steps back. The third act of the film, and this is not me saying that we're done talking about the first or second act, but the third act of the film. What? Like, there are so many things and people that popped up where I'm like, it kind of made me think. There's so many. Okay. Fatal Fury. You're familiar with the video game, right? King of Fighters, Fatal Fury.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't there's a fighter on there is his name Arbear? Is like one of the wrestlers. He's a big white guy with like a blonde mohawk.
Arbear.
No, Arbear is Streets of Rage.
Yeah.
Sorry, but there is
You're talking about,
I'm pretty sure there's a character.
Yeah, it's Thunder something. I know who you're talking about, though.
But there's a guy who shows up in that final battle. So basically, when Leroy is trying to come back to the studio, and then he's hired like 8 or 10 dudes. One of the dudes there looked just like, you reminded me just like that dude from Fatal Fury. And I started thinking to myself, I didn't look this up, but like, when did Fatal Fury come out?
Like 93, I think.
Yeah. I'm so curious now as to how many properties this movie influence, because there were a number of characters there that looked like
I would be shocked if SNK, a bunch of Japanese developers, one saw The Last Dragon, and two said BoJack Santa Claus there is a definite contender.
Hey, we need a big wrestler dude. That dude's perfect because he was the gate. He opened a gate to a level of beatdown on Leroy for a moment there.
Oh, wait, no, there were two big dudes. There was BoJack Santa Claus, and then there was the other dude who body slammed.
Yeah, that's right. Who body slammed him, and who I think actually bit into his nunchuck.
Yeah, he bit into the nunchuck.
Yeah, dude, like a Kit Kat bar,
he
man.
Did,
just straight, just right in the middle.
He just
spit it out,
and then body slammed him.
And then they just started beating the shit out of Leroy, dude. This dude came with a chain, and he was just smacking the crap out of Leroy with that giant chain. And when I'm not talking about small links,
it was an entire chain.
Yeah,
like
dude.
You got that from like a hardware store.
And it was like he went to like a boat, and that's like he pulled up an anchor and then cut the anchor off, and then just took that chain and just said, "I'm gonna go beat a black man with this."
I love that fight so much. Just the craziness of it.
Yeah.
Because it's at this point that Arcadian has gotten himself a group of ne'er-do-wells who are all ready to fight Leroy Green.
Yes.
And Leroy is actually really holding his own.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of crazy because this collective is a collective of people.
Yes.
Like there are about 4 or 5 that you can recognize as being maybe like the leaders of the groups. But then the rest of them, like, they look like the cast of like WMAC Masters.
Ooh.
The Warriors. Just like Power Ranger rejects.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's bald, I would say like white Iron Sheik, BoJack Superman.
So he's not BoJack Santa Claus anymore. He's BoJack.
BoJack
Superman is a different human.
BoJack. I would say BoJack Santa Claus is BoJack Santa Claus. I don't know what I want to give Body Slam Master. Maybe I'll just call him Body Slam Master because that was all he did other than bite the nunchucks.
Can they all be BoJacks though?
They were all BoJacks. Yeah. They were all
Can you like BoJack Body Slam Master?
Yeah. Let's call him BoJack Body Slam Master.
Okay.
BoJack Santa Claus. BoJack White Iron Sheik.
Yes.
And no, I may have only been those 3.
Well, there's one dude who I'm pretty sure was a black guy that had what looked like a Phantom of the Opera mask on. That was the dude with the chain.
That was the dude with the chain.
And I don't know why he had that Phantom of the Opera mask on.
He was one of the WMAC Masters.
Oh, okay. So he's the Okay, yeah. Gotcha. All right, so he's taken care of. He has a name.
So there were just 3 really big dudes, and then the rest of them were just kind of like henchmen.
Mm-hmm.
And they were getting whooped on until the body slams happened. And then homie with the chain came and just was whipping him.
Yeah.
And then
he didn't hold back.
All of Leroy's students showed up, including a young Ernie Reyes.
Yes. I noticed that.
And then somehow that just evened the odds.
Yeah.
I don't know how because most of them are kids.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? Like a bunch, 15, 10-year-olds run in, and then that turned the tide.
It just turned the tide.
You know, it reminds
That's
me of
because
those.
we never really think about, like, everybody always does that, like, how many 10-year-olds could you beat up? But we never question, like, what if they all could, like, if they were trained in martial arts? Because that's a different
I like how you
tale.
said that, like, because I was thinking of those hypotheticals that people would do, like animated videos for, like, oh, like 1,000 Spartans versus like 10,000 chickens. I thought that's the direction you're gonna go, and then you're like, oh, everybody does that. You know, how many 10-year-olds you can beat up? Like, is that what everybody does?
Too, yes.
You're at a
many
water cooler
10-year-olds?
at work. Like, hey man, how many 10-year-olds you think you can beat up?
It's how many 10-year-olds can you beat up? You're
Okay.
in a classroom with no furniture, no weapons. The kids are bloodlusted and they're mind controlled to lose fear.
Wow.
How many do you think you
Do
can,
they feel
you can
pain?
beat up?
Do they feel pain?
They feel pain. So like
Okay,
if you
so
like
they're not-
knocked one out, or if you like hit them hard enough and like stop them from moving, that counts.
Well, just because
But
you
you
knock them out
can't,
doesn't mean they felt the pain. You can concuss somebody probably without.
I mean, like, so part of the bloodlust is that they won't stop until they're knocked out.
Okay, so maybe they do feel pain, but it doesn't matter because they're like Wolverine. They'll just go right through it. They're like,
I would say
10
like if you
individual little
like
weapon X's.
broke a limb, they would probably stop as well.
okay,
But you can't just like punch them enough that they go ow 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 and then they just want to stop.
yeah, and they say timeout.
Yeah, there's no
let me
timeout, and you can't make
Get an
them
orange
like
slice.
fear. Like they won't feel fear. So like really messing up one of them won't like instill fear in the other ones. Like
Okay,
they still
so-
want to fight you.
Right. So you couldn't grab a 10-year-old by the back of their head and then like pick them up over and say, I was wondering what would break you first, your spirit or your body, and then break them over your knee, and then expect that the other 9 are going to be like, I think I'm done.
Yeah,
they just continue.
They would just continue.
Okay.
They would see you like Bane, like Nightfall backbreak one of them and just be like, we still got to fight you.
That's crazy.
Now imagine if they could all do martial arts.
Yeah, that's pretty brutal, man.
See.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And especially like Johnny, who was this red herring the entire time, actually like, I run away, I don't fight, and then he ends up being one of the best fighters.
Johnny could clearly fight.
Yes,
He kept acting like he could not fight throughout the entire movie.
the entire time,
And then he grabbed those nunchucks, and you're like, clearly you know what you were doing here.
dude. That little like choreographed, like synchronized swimming, type shit, like martial arts shit that he and Eddie Reyes Jr. were doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was. It reminded me of Adam and Rocky in Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie, the 1995 version, when they do like the up and over, and they have those. They seem to have like combo moves and whatnot. But I also love how, speaking of that scene, it's so funny to me that they just cannot get away from interjecting dancing into any of these scenes. Like Eddie, this 10-year-old boy, somehow he incapacitates this grown-ass man who dude looks like he's been eating like pickle and salami sandwiches for at least the past 15 years, which is like a very grown-up sandwich. And yet he knocks this man out, flips over him, gets up, and then pop locks.
Mm-hmm.
Then as he's getting back up, he says no, and he kicks him in the face again, and then walks off with a smile. Why did he even have to dance? It's like that's a level of gloating
in
that
his culture.
that is.
The culture of 1980s New York.
Yeah. Because even Richie escaped his
Him
bindings.
pop locking out of those.
Out of the bindings, dude. I was like, they're not doing this right now.
So long. Like everybody, the fight's done.
Yeah.
The vanity's gone, and he's still sitting there. A little bit more. There we go. He was so late that like he got to where they was well after everybody else did.
It's like, and the fight, dude. I just thought it was a spectacle to me to watch him try to get out of that in the first place. But then there was that part where they like fall back into that empty warehouse. I don't know where this is, but it seems like it's no longer the studio, but maybe in the same neighborhood. And then this is where the paths cross, right? This is where like Shonuff shows up, which is confusing. Because I'm like, do they speak upon, like, say, hey, on this night at this building, we're going to meet and we're going to have this fight to decide who's the master of, or was it just coincidence that somehow Shonuff was just like,
No, Eddie Arcadian hired Shonuff.
Oh, I thought he only hired. Okay, so I must have missed that. So that's the part then that. Thank you. That's the missing link. What if I just like evaporated into air and like I died? Because that was just.
That's all I need.
That was the last thing I needed to know in my life. That was the thing that killed me that I just couldn't figure out.
Like, oh well, it'd be like in Angel Beats, and everybody finally figured out their like purpose. They would just go on to the afterlife.
Damn, man.
That spoiled the crap out of Angel Beats for anybody who's not
I don't
seen
even
it.
know what.
So forget all about Angel Beats for like the next like year, and then maybe go back and watch it if you've thought about that.
I don't even know what Angel Beats is.
Angel Beats is an anime.
Oh,
It's a really good anime. That really just spoiled the ending of it, but as for this,
Andrew looks like he's like halfway through.
I'm on episode 3.
Alright.
But
Okay.
Eddie, so when they were still getting all the henchmen and the crazy dudes, Rocco and Eddie went to see Shonuff.
Okay.
And Shonuff said, just through his words, designate the time, designate the place, and I will designate his ass.
Oh, man. I don't know if I just like sneezed or something.
It was a very long sneeze.
That's true. That would have been a long ass sneeze.
But yeah, so he was supposed to show up at the warehouse.
Okay, so that was part of the.
That's why Eddie went to the warehouse.
So let me follow up with another question. Then, was this part of the plan? There was the part where when Richie shows up, Rocco almost takes him, but like a good 12-year-old does, you get a good kick in the balls, you step on the person's foot, and then you say something cool, you walk away. And then one of Shonuff dudes comes along, and of course, this is 1985, and like every man in 1985 does, they not only wear shoulder pads, they wear metal little like genital cuppings, sports guards. And
You've never seen Candy by Cameo? Have you never seen Cameo? Cameo was known for wearing the red cod piece.
So that's just a normal thing.
Yeah.
So it's like totally, you shouldn't question when a 12-year-old try to kick someone in the nuts and you hear like that metal ding, like he just clanged 2 pots together.
Yeah, because he had the cod piece on.
That's crazy.
It's to prevent Bobby Hill from happening.
So he's got that drip. He's got that genital drip. And then he picks up Richie
over his head, and he tosses
him,
and Richie just sails. It's like he turned into a paper airplane. He floated so gently over to,
and then cracks his head on an empty metal oxygen cylinder. And that ding that I heard,
so loud,
it's so pronounced. Like,
but he fell on it so softly. It was just like, bing, like, oh. They needed you to know he hit his head.
Yeah.
And it's like, that happens. And then immediately, Leroy runs over to him after beating up the dude. And he's like, Richie, you okay? And you're thinking to yourself, like, was he supposed to, like, just like, did he die situation? Like, within seconds of Leroy getting over there, he's like, oh yeah, I'm good.
To be honest, dude, as soon as I heard that, I saw it and heard it, I was like, he's dead. He's dead, dude. He killed his brother. Because it was too loud. I've had some head injuries.
Insane. Like if the way that scene played out, if that was the death of Richie, I'd have been like, y'all need to go back and try this again because
that would be out of left field.
Floated in like a Dorito.
Yeah.
In the landed so gently and just bing. You're like, oh, okay. So that's how you kill Richie.
That's one way to do it. But the final confrontation, I thought was so. It was actually like a pretty fun fight to watch. Finally, between Shonuff and Leroy, and the glowing. I did not actually expect there to be literal glowing. In that
How
scene.
many times did they sing some iteration of the glow in this song or in that movie? For you to not think that the glow was going to be a thing.
Well, I just thought it was a thing because I know there's this one part, and I wrote it down because this thing it was actually kind of wild. What is it? all the masters know that you need the glow, the glow, the glow, the glow, the glow, the glow, the glow.
And you need to give the love, then you gotta get to the higher level.
Yes.
You got the glow. You feel it, so don't let go.
You know how long it's kind of actually pathetic how long it took me to like catch what he was saying. I had captions on too. But it was hard.
I had that soundtrack at one point.
Well, I think you did a great job.
The Glow is an amazing song, and apparently it's so long that they were able to chop it up into so many different parts that they just continued to play different parts of the song, and it always felt like it was a different song, even though it would always get itself back to the Glow. So you had to assume that the Glow,
well,
unlike with the sea creature, Chekhov's Glow did exist in this movie.
Chekhov's Glow, but not Chekhov's creature.
No.
I really wish that Chekhov's creature, that was probably one of the most disappointing things. I was like, they're going to come back to this. They're going to come back to this. Nope. Never came back to this. But yeah, this they did do another Chekhov though, right? They did Chekhov's bullet teeth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Catches bullets with his teeth.
Yeah, that like nigga caught the bullet between his teeth. That was nuts.
I think the thing that was most interesting about throughout this movie, I've consistently wondered if they actually choreographed the fights, or if because like Timac, who is Leroy, is a martial artist.
You can tell, yeah.
So I was because the fight with him and Shonuff is very. It's like you could tell one person really knew martial arts and the other person did not, and that they just needed to like coalesce a scene that made it seem like it worked. But my problem is always the disjointedness between the two is that you can really tell that like one is just vastly technically superior than the other one, and so you're kind of sitting there like, how is Shonuff doing anything? And then eventually like. You're like, oh, he's got the glow, and he gets the glow first. But the thing about it is that he only has the glow in his hands.
Leroy has it over his whole body.
Leroy gets it over his whole body because he's the true master. And he actually whoops up on Shonuff so much that like his glow starts to like malfunction or something because it's like glitching out.
Which was like to me that kind of gave me the sense of he's starting to lose confidence. And then, like, his glow is starting to glitch. But no, that was a good point. It wasn't until you said that, like, that his glow was only in his hands, and Leroy was a full body glow. Mm-hmm. And hey, like as any movie does, especially around this time, the good guy luckily wins.
Leroy and put that work on him.
After that,
he
dude,
kept saying, "Who is the master? You ain't want to say who is the master." And then he finally pulled him out and he was laughing. And he was like, what the? Punched, grabbed the hand, crushed it a little bit, and he said, I am. And then he put a combo. He spun kicked him so many times in the face. I was like, damn.
I wanted to call that out, man, because I didn't think he was going to stop. The number of spin kicks he did, dude, that was Jean-Claude Van Damme level of spin kick right there.
Just stay down, Shonuff.
He just, right, man. And he just wouldn't, just the level of confidence that Shonuff had, which was errant.
I mean, he's the Shogun of Harlem.
But, there's so much of the 80s. I think to your point about the influence of the preceding decade as that following decade is trying to find its own identity is very fascinating to me because I saw there's so many actors in here that I didn't realize were like just getting their start very early on. And there was also a casting of a certain character that to me felt very influenced by a previous, I think it was a 70s sitcom. And I want to know if you think the same thing. But Leroy Green Sr., did
John
he not
Amos?
look like yes.
I knew that's what you were
going
going
As soon as he came up, I was like, dude, that's the dad from Good Times. And it wasn't until they had another close-up, I was like, that's not the dad from Good Times.
No, that's just how brothers was, like older men. That's how the unks were back then. They would just rock the not the full Sherman Hemsley, but they rock the cul-de-sac with the just get it a little like faded up.
That's a good name for it. The cul-de-sac gives them some Ed, Edd and Eddie vibes.
Yeah, that's how they rocked it back then.
Yeah.
Like when you reached like 35,
That's a wrap, dude.
It's like you're done. You've probably already had 2-3 kids at a time. You got your house
at least
after working at like the local 5 and dime.
Yep.
And you are good to go. Now you maybe like are running like a restaurant or something, and you just going about your day. You ain't got time for no drive talking to none of your kids back talking to you, and you're now old from 35 on up. that's how they was.
Yeah.
John Amos was like in his maybe his 30s during Good Times.
That's nuts. That is crazy. I guess maybe that's why, because I just assumed that he was like in his 50s or something like that. Not even because of his face. It was purely because of the Sherman Hemsley.
Mm-hmm.
It was because of the cul-de-sac. I thought he was like in his 50s. And so that's why I was so curious about it. I was like, man, he's still alive? And it kind of blew my mind. I'm like, he was 50 in 1970s.
That, right?
Yeah.
No.
Like, how can he
was in
possibly...
his late 30s.
Yeah, dude, that's that Betty White juice. But Rudy Huxtable shows up as the little sister. Yeah. Cole, actually.
Yeah.
Cole from, I forget his name in real life, but also I know he plays on Martin.
Mm-hmm. Carl
Anthony Payne, that's right. Dude, William H. Macy. What?
I remember seeing this movie again after like seeing some stuff with William H. Macy in it. I was like, what the heck? William H. Macy?
Right? Blew my mind, dude. And it was only for that like one scene. I don't think he came up again. I'm like, wow. William H. Macy. And for those who may not be familiar, I mean, if you've ever seen Shameless, the American version, William H. Macy, I believe, plays the patriarch in that show. So he shows up in 1985 in Bruce Gordy's The Last Dragon. Insane.
Barry Gordy.
I said Bruce Gordy. But even Rocco, I can't remember the actor's name, but I know I've seen Rocco in movies before, throughout the like late 80s and 90s. Is there anyone else? I guess Eddie Reyes Jr.
Yeah, Ernie Reyes.
A few years later in Terminator. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah,
they all have TMNTs in it, so it's just like Terminator.
So yeah, Ernie Reyes. So it's both Ernie Reyes Jr. and Timex debut movies. I think this is only Vanity's second movie after Purple Rain, and it may be. I want to say his name is Glenn Eaton, who's Johnny. I think it's his first movie too.
Okay.
So you got a lot of like kind of starter people getting their first like taste of Hollywood.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like a, I don't know how great of a launching platform it was for anybody, but definitely a stone to be stepped in the grand scheme of things. I don't think anybody was like, I wasn't in The Last Dragon when they clearly were. It's I don't know, it's such a fun movie.
Yeah, it really is. And one more little bit of just like inspiration and things I was thinking about while watching it, especially movies that may have been influenced from certain scenes later on, is Mortal Kombat 1995. So the scene where Leroy is basically he falls into that trap, and Eddie Arcadian's goons all surround him there at the studio. It felt very similar to that scene at the end of Mortal Kombat when Liu Kang is finally going to fight Shang Tsung, and then all of those like old warriors that I was assuming Shang Tsung had killed pop up out of that hole, and then like have that shot where it's like surrounding. He's looking at all of these enemies, and I'm pretty sure I remember thinking to myself, I thought that The Rock was one of those dudes in that scene. I don't think he was. I looked into it. I couldn't find anything.
Johnson?
Yeah, Dwayne Johnson, The Rock. I thought he was one of the dudes swinging the axes in that scene in Mortal Kombat. Not in The Last Dragon. Anyways,
I was gonna say he's a kid during The Last Dragon, but
nah, it would have been like around 95. But yeah, dude, I'm very glad that you recommended this. I don't know if I would have sought it out at least in the near future if you hadn't, but boy oh boy, was this a nice, like, campy, fun food here as a snack, a treat that I needed.
I am glad that I could get that one checked off for you.
Mm-hmm.
So now they won't come after you. just yet.
Check off.
I guess it's checked off.
If you're not subscribed by now, guys, you're missing out on some just I think crazy subscribe, guys.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
yeah, that was The Last Dragon. Highly encourage. If you haven't seen it, folks, please watch it again. Or please watch it, and if you have already seen it, watch it again. And then listen to this episode again and let us know what you think.
Yep. So definitely feel free to share your thoughts in the comment section. Like, share, subscribe. Definitely need more subscribers. We definitely like to hear from you guys and what you think about what we think about stuff. And as well
Even
as
if
what
it's
you
bad.
think about the stuff that we think about when we're watching it.
And
So,
then we'll tell you what we think about the stuff, the things that you think about of our thoughts of the things that were thought about when we thunk them.
because when you got the glow, you need the
Go,
glow. The
got
glow,
you,
the
go,
glow,
do,
the glow,
go,
the glow.
got to, you love to live to love.
Then you got to go to the higher level.
All right, folks. Well, signing off. This has been Farron,
This is Damon.
and this has been yet another episode of Panharmonicon Studios presents
A
Podcast.
podcast.
Have a good one, guys. You need to go.
Panharmonicon presents a podcast.